Warning, this is a hunting video. Stop watching now if you do not like hunting videos or images of animals being killed. You have been warned. What's going on, people? Hajimoto here, first week of December 2016. And I got a video that I made here that I want to share with you guys that has to do with scope cams and hunting video capture or target capture, whatever you want to do with the scope cam. I wanted to share my torment and hell with you guys, bring you into my hell, so to speak. You know, misery loves company, so I'm bringing you guys with me. The constant quest of trying to get clearer and better image. Any video maker, movie guys out there can feel my pain. It has to do with either lighting, where stands, how you're setting your cameras up, view angles, the depth of field, perception. You got so much content that has to be captured in so little time with all these variables to make it happen. So us normal guys on YouTube that aren't financed by some giant movie house and got millions of dollars behind us with, you know, key grips and all kinds of camera jockeys that know exactly how to run those things that cost like $1 million. That's not us, right? We're normal guys just trying to capture normal video. So with that being said, scope cams. Any of us that have thought of grabbing some of the footage of our shots have seen them, and if you haven't, you can go to Google and you can type scope cam, and you're going to get all kinds of ideas. And if you go into the images, you're going to see hundreds and hundreds of them like these. Some of them cost thousands of dollars. Others can be bought for as little as $30, or you can make one yourself and save a lot of money. The top dollar items actually use laser splitters, and those laser splitters make some really crisp images. Then there's guys like Ted's Holdover, who uses the bracket setup that I think everyone's familiar with. We've all seen them before. Then there's the homemade stuff where people use extruded aluminum, brackets, you name it, to support their camera and being able to look through their scope or be on top of the scope. Because there are so many optic solutions out there, you can go to this guy here, which is a small fortune, which gives a ridiculous amount of clarity because it literally uses a laser splitter and multiple prisms plus a level of magnification, so you end up with full view. Now, here's the video of this particular piece of equipment being used. They do a great deal of reviewing. I mean, they do a good job reviewing it. I think they do a thorough job of reviewing it, and the image quality is phenomenal. So take a minute to watch the clarity in this. I mean, that is ridiculously clear. There's still, though, I'm not seeing any slow motion footage, so that pellet trajectory and travel is important to me, showing the trajectory and the point of impact. So that being said, I got to thinking about some options in making this more stable. So while looking through the images on the internet that other folks that have made, built, and so forth, I was coming across and I saw where someone took a angle optic, which allows you to be 90 degrees of the scope and be able to look through it so that you can do essentially blind fire, reach around the corner and shoot, and took that and modified it and took his Hero camera and mounted it to it. So if you look online, you can pick one up relatively cheap, like this one, and the prism is really what you're interested in. And it's got me thinking. So I'm like, now I start searching on the internet for more on this. And as I'm going through it, I find the post that supported the picture, and you can see where he developed it from, you know, a prototype just to see if it's a proof of concept, and then slowly but surely kept working on it until they came up with, plumbing, piping solutions that worked using the same camera. And then ultimately, they ended up designing a system that was a 3D printed component to support the camera. But it all was birthed from that original electrical tape holding the right angle to the optic and so forth. As I kept reading down through the story, I came to the 3D printed component. Now, this is the prototype that he made, and you can see it's very rough, but inside there is the prism. The camera's on top using two-sided tape, and it got me to start thinking, this looks like a viable solution. I mean, this looks like something that I think would be far better because of the harmonic distortions when the hammer on a PCP slams forward. It does a fair amount of jarring. And in doing so, those micro vibrations are seen the minute the trigger is pulled. For instance, here in some of my videos, even though it's crystal clear, you can see the target. It's a combination of things. Because I'm only capturing at 60 frames a second, and because of this micro stutter, you're going to see it. It blurs up right here. And essentially doesn't clear up until after the shot has already hit, and you don't really appreciate, the trajectory or travel of the pellet. So I started really looking at this and figured, okay, if I pick up a Hero 4 Black, which allows a far superior level of capture, frames per second, and couple it with this device here, I think I might have a winning solution. So this is his latest, which you can see is a fine resolution. It's a high resolution component at the end. It's far better. The only thing that I think that I would be different with is his eyepiece was of a millimeter that was substantially less than the scopes I use. So I was thinking of a way would I have to modify it. I reached out to him and asked him if he would be interested in, giving me the 3D file so that I could modify it, and he's not. He's selling these for $65 each through this other company that makes them. And while that's, it's his prerogative, it's his solution, he also didn't get back to me as to if he would modify it to fit my particular application. So I just went on the site. The thing was $65, and I said, I'll modify it. I'll do whatever I need to do to make it work. So I purchased that. That showed up exactly as it's shown on the screen. And then I picked up the right angle, coupled those two together to give me essentially what he did, then piggybacked it with the Hero 3 camera, Hero 4 Black, which gives far more resolution options than any of the previous iterations, including 1080p at 120 frames a second. So I'm like, this looks like a good combination. This is the route I'm going to go. Ordered all the components, waited for everything to come in, and in turn ended up building the thing myself. The camera itself is the key component here, and I think taking from its one axis and putting it in a horizontal configuration on top means that any of the vibrations and or what's the word I'm looking for? Any of the lateral axis hit by the hammer is going to now be transferred into a horizontal configuration rather than a vertical, so that it doesn't boing. So we go from this that he made to a much more refined product that I'll show you at the end. So here's what every one of us is familiar with on this. You have a scope. You want to put a cam on the back, on the eyepiece of it, and you want it to fit on the end that you're going to look through. You want it to look through here somehow. You want to get it so it captures it. So when you look out in the world for your options, you have the one that Ted's holdover had, which is this guy here, which I bought. And this thing clamps onto the tube in the backside, and it'll fit any tube. It opens up fairly large. Then you clamp this piece on, and as an assembly, this becomes the base that supports all of the horizontal extrusions that come off of it to support the camera, giving it a platform of stability. So you put the bottom piece on, which allows it to be pushed away from the eyepiece, so you end up with a adjustable platform to allow your camera to be either slid closer, further away, and you can also swing this out of the way when you want to just look through the eyepiece. The camera could be an iPhone. It can be a regular SLR. It all sits back on the platform provided, and it works pretty well. I mean, as you've seen in Ted's holdover videos, it works really well. There's no problem with that. But in this day and age, there's got to be a way to improve it. So taking that into account, if we look at the actual pamphlet, it does a pretty good job of showing all of the different configurations that you can put this thing in. That it's a full assembled look, and also all of the different attachments that come with it that allow you to use cell phones, Heroes, SLRs, whatever. And so this is, in theory, this works really, really well. And you don't have to just use it for scope on your rifle. You can use it on telescopes, spotting scopes, anything. Here's a little video of Ted when in 2010 going through his explanation on his camera mount system.
I've been asked by a lot of you to show the specifics of my camera mount. So this will only take a minute or two, and it starts with the mount itself, which is made by a company called Seven.
So as you can see, it's fairly old, seeing that it's 2016. We're almost going into 17. It's almost 7 years old. So while it did work then, I said there has to be a better way to mount this without a long pogo stick, boingy, springboard type of configuration hanging off the end of it. So I started to think of something to fit over the eyepiece, something firm. This is what I came up with. The Gamo that I put the scope cam on, and that's downrange, which the targets that most of the time that I'm shooting at is like 30 yards out, downrange, down that way. The configuration that I came up with allows my iPhone to sit in, and you can see it's a live shot as I move, and that is basically a piece of ABS with a cap, a phone case that I cut so that it took up minimal space. If you notice, it's basically been, I cut it to like a half case, and the rubber band just simply keeps tension on the phone while it's in. Now that was my first attempt at making one, and this is it after a few modifications. It's been cut around because the UTG scopes that I use will have a illuminated reticle, so there's a battery compartment on the top that I had to cut a notch out for. I put plastic knobs on the side using 1/4-inch thread. Also on the back, I put a tensioner that pushes the phone tightly against the face of it so that you'd get minimal vibration. And it allows the iPhone, in this particular instance, the iPhone 6, once it's snapped in, you tighten it down and it presses it so that to try, again, in an attempt to minimize the harmonics and vibration created by the hammer slamming forward and being carried down the assembly. Because the phone is in a right angle, while it's on there tight and it doesn't move around, the micro vibrations is what the iPhone is picking up on. And when you're looking at the eyepiece, everything's crystal clear. But when you take that shot, that's when it gets blurry. And there's nothing that I found yet to get rid of it. So that's why in this particular design, it works pretty well. It's a piece of ABS plastic, tube, 2-inch ABS. And I put a phone case at the end, and that phone case is attached to the cap. So the cap itself can come off, and you can put different caps on with different assemblies. So when you starts out, you've got a piece of 2-inch. You just simply line the inside with felt, which you can get from any big box hardware store, Lowe's, Home Depot. It's adhesive on one side, felt on the other. And if you roll it up, you can stick it inside, peel the backing off of it, and now it sticks to the inside, reducing the overall fit, but giving a flexible, soft fit that's tight going over any of your scopes and stuff. If you look at the cap itself, you find the center of the cap and drill that out so that your eyepiece is looking through the center. once you've done that, now you take a hard plastic phone case, and that becomes attached to the cap, and that's what's going to cradle your phone. Now, here's one I made for an iPhone 5 of mine. The 5 fits right on it just like it would any other of them. It's dead center, so now I can use the iPhone 5 to capture. And if you made up others for a Samsung phone, whatever phones you have, you could make multiple caps to support all of your different devices. So you're not stuck with just one. Providing you don't glue the cap on, you can always swap it out to whatever device you have handy. And it comes on and off very, very easily. Obviously, once you epoxy the phone case on, you're not getting it off again, but you get my point. So now let's talk a little bit about the other with the right angle, the prism, the 3D component. This is the case that's left over when I took the prism out of the right angle, or what they call an angle sight that sits right against the eyepiece here. So now you could look right through the back like you normally would, or through the side where my thumb's pointing. So a person could literally blind fire. You could reach around the corner and shoot. So you take the cap off and you remove the prism out of it. I wore gloves to make sure I didn't put fingerprints all over it. Once you have that prism, that's what's going to go into the 3D printed piece. Now, the 3D printed piece is the part that I got from the guy from New Zealand. Now, this is the completed piece. If you notice, as I said earlier, his eyepiece was different. So I took a waterproof black Hero case, and if you look, I screwed it right to the top, centered everything up, put the prism in, and then did the system that I just talked about using 2-inch ABS with the felt lining, notched it out for what I needed for the reticle, and it fits on perfect. Very, very tight, doesn't move around. I can take my Hero 4, drop it right in the case, close the door, lock it down, and now when I'm done, I'm looking through the scope as a conventional scope. You're not looking at a screen. You're looking straight in. The camera hits the prism and goes down and goes 90 degrees forward, so it's getting its view. I'm getting my view through the back. This configuration allows far superior video than it does with anything else that I've had so far. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to show you a couple of demos here. These demos are going to show the shots, one with the old, one with the new, and we'll talk through those as those get going. Okay, in this first video, it's the chipmunk, and this one you've seen before. Keep an eye on the crosshair and watch how it buzzes and how long it takes to go away. This was captured at 60 frames a second, has been slowed down to 25%, so we are looking at 15 frames a second. Now here in the second one, this is the new design using the GoPro 4, captured at 120 frames a second, reduced to 25%, which means we're looking at 30 frames a second. Now here's a side-by-side that I'm going to loop 3 times so you can watch the difference. I'm timing the shot for them both to go off at the same time. Well, I think that shows a substantial amount of clarity. And while I understand one was at 60 and one was at 120 frames a second, that does not in any way qualify all of the distortion you see. The frames per second aren't going to increase that. So it's obvious that this new build and the camera being in a horizontal configuration and being much smaller and dense made a huge difference. Well, guys, that about sums it up. That's what I got and what I've done so far. I'd like to give props to Ted's Holdover, who has for years been the guy that everyone's been emulating to get clear video while they shoot. Also, I've put links down below to the New Zealand developer for the 3D model in which I purchased, and the links where you can buy it. Also, I'll put the links in on Amazon where I picked up all the components so that you can build this thing yourself. I'm glad to handle any questions you may have on build, on any specifics, and I'll try to walk you through it. Thanks a lot for watching my video. I appreciate it, guys. And if you get some time, take a look at these guys over here on the right. Maybe there's something there you'll enjoy. Take care.